You are about to meet the greatest warriors the world has ever known.
And the Eternals are unlike anything else you've ever seen in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Let me tell you why.
Legendary. Fashionable. Powerful.
Hey guys, it's Sean O'Connell, the managing editor here at CinemaBlend, with a spoiler-free review of Marvel's next film, Eternals, one that truly blew my mind. I can't wait to tell you all of the reasons why I think this is one of the most spectacular and original films in the MCU to date. I'm going to break it all down for you, and you guys can watch it before you've seen the movie. Before you dive into the review, do me a favor, go down, hit subscribe, and turn on the notifications. We want to make sure that you watch every video that we post here on YouTube. And because we're covering Eternals so much here on CinemaBlend, we want to make sure you keep it right here for all of the latest Marvel coverage.
Eternals assemble.
It's a really good line.
I want to start off by telling you why Eternals is so unique to everything that we've seen up until this point, and that has been sort of the theme of Marvel's Phase 4 so far, between Loki, Falcon and Winter Soldier, WandaVision, Shang-Chi, and now Eternals. Marvel is swinging for the fences and really trying to give us things that are totally different than what they introduced in the Infinity Saga, and I think it actually connects right in the center of the target for Eternals, because right off the bat, you're dealing with heroes that have been around for 7,000 years and have been living on our planet, protecting us from these celestial creations called deviants. And you've seen the deviants in some of the trailers. They are these lizard type looking creatures, and the Eternals were created simply to protect our planet from the deviants every time that they sort of sprung up. Now, the way that Marvel explores these different corners of where the Eternals come from and the presence of the Celestials, which are these massive space beings that basically devour planets. If you read the comics, you can think of someone like Galactus and the type of power that comes with him. The fact that these characters have been around for 7,000 years and the way that they've adapted to the different things that have happened in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it makes even characters like Captain America and Tony Stark and even Carol Danvers, who's had, tremendous experience and is a galactic character, it makes them seem incredibly small scale when you think about the amount of stuff that the Eternals have been responsible for.
The Avengers have Thor, Spider-Man, but we have Athena.
Hello.
So this is a huge swing for the fence. And if you ever read any of the comics by Jack Kirby, the artist who created Eternals, you know that they're really, kind of out there. They were 60s and 70s type art that can get sort of psychedelic and a little bit trippy. And the movie doesn't shy away from that. It really leans into the fact of the powers that are portrayed by both of these heroes and these villains are totally different than anything that's been showcased in the MCU, but it comes with a real confidence in the fact that they know that these characters are going to be unique and different. Try and imagine that back half of Shang-Chi when they, go through the portal and end up in that alternate world where magic is really prominent, and we see Shang-Chi riding on the backs of dragons. Like, Marvel's not afraid to try stuff like this now because they know that they have their audience and their fan base in place, and Eternals is absolutely one of those films that says, hey, you're so far along in the MCU process, we don't really have to hold your hand anymore, so we're going to go buck wild. And I loved the fact that that Eternals tried that and that Marvel feels confident enough to do it.
They've evolved.
What is that thing?
I kind of danced around the fact of the team dynamic because I wanted to save it for this separate section, because I was really blown away by how the different personalities that are represented in Eternals is also, again, still so different than anything that's been represented in the MCU to date. And the cast that they brought up for this is just truly spectacular. Our main leader is Cersei, and she's played by Gemma Chan.
Are you a wizard, like Doctor Strange?
I'm super normal.
And the thing about the Eternals is that they've, again, as I've said, been around for 7,000 years, but there's a reason why after a certain amount of time, they were able to sort of separate and go their own ways. When the deviants start to surface, Richard Madden's character, Icarus, has to sort of show up and get back together with Cersei and sort of put the team together. But the team we find at all different stages of where they are. And some of them want to be found and some of them very much do not. But every time that the new Eternals sort of come around and say, look, it's time for us to get back together, that team dynamic comes into place. And I realized that it was really refreshing to see a team in Eternals that have been together and have this sort of chemistry already, and a strong sense of purpose and a strong sense of mission. Because throughout the course of the first few phases of the MCU, it was always about how do we get the Avengers to play together. And then with Civil War, how do we tear them apart? And the bond between Cap and Steve that really had to be repaired. The Eternals are a family, so when they have to get together, that family, dysfunctional family sort of dynamic kicks in, and the actors really, really lean into that. All of these different personalities are, slight tweaks on what we've seen in the MCU before, but really, really refreshing to see them playing off of each other, and I cannot stress enough how much I loved the existing team dynamic, and the idea that these people were a family, always will be a family, even when they're coming at a problem from different sides, and how they're going to figure out how to use it. It really elevates Eternals to a different level.
This is what the end of the world looks like. At least we have front row seats.
You know what's never saved the planet? Your sarcasm.
The final reason why Eternals was such a huge hit for me personally is just the presence of director Chloé Zhao. She's coming off of Nomadland, a Best Director winner earlier this year. Now, clearly, Marvel didn't know that she was going to be an Oscar winner when they hired her to direct this film, but they recognized her talents from her previous films. The Rider is a fantastic film if you haven't yet gone to go see that, and of course, Nomadland with the great Frances McDormand. And Chloe makes very contemplative, and somber and naturalistic and beautiful films, and that aesthetic and her fingerprints are all over the template for Eternals. They did not force Chloé Zhao into a Marvel movie. They let Chloé Zhao make a Marvel movie that fits her voice. And it's not just a great match of director and studio, but Eternals reminds me a bit of like when James Gunn hit the scene with Guardians, and it was like so far out of left field because Marvel hadn't done anything like up to that point of what James Gunn accomplished with that. I'm not saying Eternals is a James Gunn movie, but Eternals is very much a Chloé Zhao movie. This is epic in scope. And the characters, again, because they've been around for so long and have such knowledge and experience, need that sort of contemplative touch that Chloé Zhao brings to her films. So I very much believed that I was watching the latest Chloé Zhao movie in Eternals, in addition to watching the next film in the MCU. And that's super exciting to me, because anytime a filmmaker is able to come and put their stamp on something that, arguably can be as formulaic as a Marvel movie is, but Eternals is always going to stand out to me as being one of those films that fits the mold of the director. Maybe like Taika's Thor Ragnarok, or again, Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy films. The way that Chloé Zhao approaches material and what Marvel allowed her to pull off is just jaw-dropping, and I think it's a perfect match of director approach and subject matter.
Let's finish this.
So it sounds like I'm raving about Eternals, so let me give it a star rating. I'm actually going to go 4.5 stars out of 5. And for a little while in thinking about this, and I hate doing this because it's like a snap judgment after one view, but I was almost at a perfect 5 out of 5. But 5 out of 5 to me seems like it should be reserved for the cream of the crop of the MCU, and that to me is like Avengers Infinity War and Endgame, probably Captain America Civil War, films that really take all of the elements of the MCU and combine them into one sort of thrilling package. This is such a departure for the MCU, and I hope it's speaking to the direction of where Phase 4 and Phase 5 can go. So I'm settling on 4.5 out of 5. But that meter is ticking a little bit towards 5. So this is absolutely a top 10 MCU film for me, having only seen it the one time, and dying to go back and see it again on a big screen. I did get to see it in a theater. I think it's being filmed in IMAX and presented in IMAX, and so if given the option, I definitely want to go back and see it in that format, because the cinematography and the photography done in this film are breathtaking, like truly beautiful, and I think Chloé Zhao created something really special here with Eternals.
I'm sure that was a lot of fun for you.
It was.
Of course, that means you should go out and see Eternals as soon as it hits theaters on November 5th. This is not one of those Disney Plus and theaters at the exact same time, so you're going to have to go out to a theater should you feel safe enough to go do so. Here on the YouTube channel, go down and hit subscribe and turn on your notifications. We want you to see every single video that we post here. And remember, we're going to be covering all of the latest features from the Marvel Cinematic Universe here on CinemaBlend, from Eternals to Spider-Man No Way Home and everything coming in 2022, so make sure you keep it right here.